We're here for another episode of the podcast. Today we have Lachin Darre from Lachine Darre Architects, and we're just going to ask him a few questions. Glad to have you here.
Thanks a lot for inviting me.
Of course. All right, I figured we'd start. You just tell us a little bit about your background and when you first became interested in architecture.
All right. So my first experience with architecture was when I was early in high school. I spent the summer in Italy. One of my friends was going over to visit some family and invited me, and we spent about a month there. And I was just blown away by the architecture. Completely different than from what you see here. Just very elaborate, and it was beautiful, and I became really interested. And from then on, I wanted to be an architect.
Was there a specific building or a typical pattern you kept seeing in the cities or anything that really stands out in your mind?
A lot of the cathedrals. We were in Florence. That's where our base was, and just seeing the Duomo there was incredible. The fact that they built it so long ago.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking back to New Orleans has some nice architecture, but like the Metairie houses that I grew up in the 1950s are nothing compared to what they did hundreds of years before.
Right.
So I was just blown away by what they could do.
Yeah, because New Orleans is old, but it's not Europe old.
No.
Right.
It's not
No.
old like what they have over there. And then you went on to LSU Architecture?
Right. So LSU Architecture School, did 5 years there. Around the time of graduation, that was 2009. The economy was a little shaky back then. So I went to graduate school to get my master's in business, because like most people know, in architecture school they don't teach you too much business.
Right.
And did that for a while. Also worked at the firm I'm actually at right now. I worked at, it was at the time Lachin Darre. And
that was your first architecture gig out of school?
That was my first architecture job out of school. I had typical internships during school. Decided to go back, finish architecture school. Actually finish business school.
Yeah.
Worked for Disney for a little short stint. Once I finished graduate school, I decided not to go back into architecture, but to go into construction. And I was a project manager for Skanska. It's a big Swedish company that was building the LSU Medical Center. Did that for a while, got a lot of experience from that. I came out of that thinking that all architecture students should really have some construction experience, just because it opens your eyes to a whole different world of how things are done. My mind was blown at details that I drew when I would see them in the field every day. Because you can go on site visits as an architect and see some things, but you're usually just walking through for an hour or two and leave.
Sure.
But when you're in a trailer every day for 2 years, seeing the entire process, it just changes your perception of things. When you understand how things are really done, you're watching guys every day, bending metal, screwing in joints, applying window flashing.
Yeah.
You truly get a better knowledge of how those details need to be drawn. So I think that experience was priceless. After about 2 years there, the hospital was starting to wrap up. Most of the people building that job were from out of town. So I was going to get shipped out somewhere, and I didn't really know where. And I kind of switched over and went to go work for Broadmoor, a local design build contractor.
Yep.
And I worked on their design team, but handling all design build jobs. So I was there for about 7-8 years, worked my way up, ran their design group, in-house design group, where we focused on teaming up with other architects. And after work there for a while, I was kind of ready for another move, and luck just had it that one of my friends from architecture school reached out. His uncle, who owned Lachine, Mike Lachine, was looking to retire, and he wanted somebody to come in as a partner and buy him out. And so I jumped back ship onto the architecture side, which wasn't really sure that I would ever planned on doing that.
Right.
But timing worked out, and so now we have Lachine Darre.
Perfect. Going back to when you were at LSU Architecture, this is going back 20 years or so now. So
Yep.
can you talk about some of your experience with hand drawings and physical models that you might have had to deal with back then?
Yeah, so when I was there, they still made everybody do hand drawings for the first year and a half or so.
Do you think that also gave you, more valuable experience with how to look at something rather than just blow through it on a software?
Yes, I think so, because when you're hand drawing, you have to draw every line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have to really plan it out, because if you draw 2 or 3 lines together and you realize you draw 4 lines, you're going back and reworking it.
Right.
Whereas, once you're in AutoCAD, you can just grab some old details, download some details, and you're not, you can skip some steps in there where you might not actually learn
Right.
how to really construct it. So I think hand drawing is very important. When I first got out of school, there was still some old school draftsmen that would teach us how to do some detailing. And, of course, they didn't like technology at the time. They didn't like CAD and Revit. But understanding from them how things go together was important too, because they could kind of teach you when you're detailing something. You might not exactly draw it how it's going to be applied, because you got to draw it as instructions for the contractor to look at. So they would teach you little tricks on how to adjust detailing.
Do you think they should still do that?
Yeah, I think so.
Do you know if they still do that? I don't even know. I was not an architecture student, so I don't know.
It's a good
question.
question. If they still teach it like that, I don't even know now.
Maybe I could ask the intern you got.
Yeah.
I don't know. But
Things have become so automated now that I think it's important to still understand like the method of building and the philosophy behind it, because it's so easy now to go on, Asa Abloy's website or whoever and just click download and pop it in, but you don't understand what you're really putting in. So it's important to, know the background behind everything.
yeah. Similarly, our lead estimator, he taught me everything. He always said, before you get so attached to Bluebeam, remember that you got to be able to do it with the scale, and that way you really understand what you're looking at.
Yeah,
You know.
very important.
Okay. Can you talk about this whole Imagineer program with Disney
Yeah.
a little bit?
So growing up, I always wanted to be an Imagineer. I just thought it'd be really cool to design some of the stuff that they had there. It's not your standard buildings.
Yeah.
It's just taken to a next level. So I always wanted to do that. Applied for jobs a couple of times. Right when I was finishing graduate school, it was about the same week, I finally got a call back and an offer from a group in the Imagineering sector, and it was going to be designing Disney stores and gift shops.
That's cool.
And that same week, I got the job offer from Skanska. And so that was a tough decision to make, but I think I ended up making the right one.
But you had worked with Imagineer a little bit, right? Didn't you?
I worked at the parks, and I took some classes, made some connections within the Imagineering group that I'd been speaking with
And with the college program.
during the college program.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you had some interaction with engineers and architects in
Yep.
that process and that kind of.
Yeah,
How did
and
that
then I
help
ended
you?
up making a connection or two through architects that I knew in the industry, older architects. I had
Okay.
friends there.
Okay.
hmm
Yeah.
Yeah, so it would have been a cool job, but I think it all worked out.
What were your initial responsibilities when you were with Skanska?
When I was with Skanska, I was
the first things they had you doing.
first things I did was I was a project engineer over toilet accessories, finishes,
Yep.
all the different
All the
finishes.
glamorous stuff.
all the great stuff. Looking at shop drawings for toilet partitions.
Right.
I did that for a while. Then they moved me over to BIM coordination. So I was running all that, building information modeling. At the time, it wasn't brand new, but it was still developing, still changing very rapidly. So we were working with a group called IPSICAD. They're out of England. They had some guys from England and Australia living in New Orleans. And so I was basically the manager over all the hospital clash detections and coordination. And that was a great job as well, because it taught me more about the technology side, which since
Right.
then has rapidly changed even more.
Right.
But also showed me, once the design intent drawings are done, there's still a whole level of coordination that takes place after that. Just especially at a hospital, you've got pneumatic tubing, you've got just massive amounts of cable trays, duct work, everything involves steel. So knowing how all that goes together above the ceiling is extremely important. And I think BIM coordination is a huge part of our industry now that's important. So I did that for a little bit, and I also was a project manager over the mechanical systems for the hospital.
Oh, okay. All right. When you were at Broadmoor, you did CM at risk, and I was just going to see if you could go into that process and what you learned with that.
Yeah, so that's a great process. I really enjoyed it. I had never had any. The LSU hospital did use that process, but that job was on such a massive scale, and I was focused on my little portion of it that I didn't really have any experience with it. Once I got to Broadmoor, we did a lot of design build, which led into a lot of construction manager at risk work. I really enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm.
I know there's always a lot of people that hesitate to embrace change, and I got a lot of kickback from when we would start working with different architects throughout the city. They would kind of question it and be like, why are you choosing this? This doesn't seem, they would say design by spreadsheet is what they would always say. And it's really a lot more than that.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a successful tool and a project delivery method because it really helps maintain a budget. You're not doing a lot of rework. You're not trying to design and then price it and hope it comes in budget and changing things. You're actively adjusting the design and hitting that target.
Right.
A perfect example of that. So Broadmoor was the contractor. Mathis Briere actually worked for Broadmoor. We hired Mathis as the architect. And then there was also another architect for the initial design out of Texas. So we all got together for the first kickoff meeting, and everybody was in the room. We had priority subcontractors that were tied to engineers. We had owners. We had, it was probably 30, 40 people in the room.
Wow.
And one of the lead architects from the Texas office came in and showed us some very preliminary concepts for what they wanted to do with this building. And this project was situated in the warehouse district on a corner lot. There's zero lot line. So right up against the sidewalk, touching adjacent buildings.
Mm-hmm.
And he wanted to use brick walls, but traditional masonry brick.
Right.
And a first idea that we had to try to logistically make this project a little more feasible and end up saving money was, instead of using traditional brick, using precast curtain walls with brick inlays.
Right.
We said that would just be a much easier process instead of erecting scaffolding
In that
doing all
tight space.
in that
Yeah.
tight space,
Yeah.
load bearing masonry, especially for that long of a time over a sidewalk. So, and at first he was like, look, brick doesn't hang, brick is load bearing, like that's how brick wants to be. And got a little theoretical. We showed him a project that it was done on, and he looked at it and he's like, I couldn't even tell.
Couldn't tell the difference.
No,
Like,
and
yeah.
we showed him how much faster it was going to go up, which just helps with not only cost and schedule, but like quality control. It's made in a warehouse. You can go and see it. And he ended up agreeing, pending we do a mock-up.
Mm-hmm.
So we did a mock-up. Everybody liked it. And I mean, it saved the client time and money. Looked great.
Right.
And it was, really a better system. It might not be it for every project, but this project, it worked out, and it worked out well. We made that decision in, what they call the big room meeting, when everybody gets together and it's kind of a meeting of the minds. We made that decision day one,
Yeah.
and it helped.
Have you ever gotten pushback when you're trying to give a VE option, just like that, rather than have it go so well?
Well, so we don't even call those VE options at
Oh, okay.
the time, because you're not value engineering anything.
Well, that's true, yeah,
It's
'cause
just
you're still-
you're putting
yeah.
it into the program, and so it's a different process than that. We didn't take something and try to make it cheaper. We took a thought and
Yeah,
made it
you're
better.
right. You're right.
So we'll get pushback sometimes with
Mhm.
things like that, but when you come in with on a Seymour job, everybody's on a team. You're one team.
Right.
If one person fails, everybody fails, because the owner, you can't just go and say, well, that's the architect's fault. And the owner looks at the architect, or that's the contractor's fault, because it's one contract.
Right.
It's everybody's fault.
everybody involved.
So
That's right.
you have to go in with a mentality of working together. And if you get pushback, you just talk it out and work it out. Just like
Yeah.
if you've got a sub and everybody's going to have issues on a job, but they're on your team,
Mm-hmm.
you got to help them out and work together.
Do you think as long as the owner's rep gets what they're looking for aesthetically, then they're usually going to be okay with it?
Yeah, as
Like
long
with the
as
brick on the
Yeah.
outside, you know?
Yeah, as long as everything else. I mean,
Yeah.
you got the three-pronged approach, scope, schedule, and budget. So you got to make sure the qualities, you can have two of the three.
Yeah.
It can be really good and really fast, but you're going to pay a little more.
Right.
So there's those trade-offs.
And look, for the viewers, would you mind explaining kind of in depth what CM at risk means?
Yeah, so as a construction manager at risk project, it's really, you bring the team together at the beginning. Right now, some clients try to bring the contractor in a little bit later, but the earlier you connect the contractor and the architect, the better. And it's almost what it says. It puts the contractor more at risk in the sense that they're going to give you the price. The owner's going to have a budget. The contractor early on is going to say, look, if you need it at this price, we'll lead the design to this price. They'll continually update the budget as the design progresses. So you're not designing for 3 months and then seeing where is this budget going to get. You're going to price out the deliverables, but you're going to be looking at it the whole time, trying to guide it. You're not just taking a back seat. And so once you get to a certain point, and it'll be established in the contract, whether it's 100% design development or 50% construction documents, you're going to set a guaranteed maximum price. The contractor's going to have enough certainty in the design and the team that they're going to say, I can deliver this project for this price. And that you're always going to have a contingency in there for unknowns, because that's going to happen. But that gives the owner more certainty to say, all right, great. We went down this path from the beginning. We understood the process, and we're at the point that we need to be at. We can keep rolling with finalizing the CDs or bringing the subs on board, starting construction, as opposed to bidding the project out and keeping your fingers crossed and hoping, nobody's priced this yet. Is it going to come in under budget? We don't know. So it's a level of certainty that's given to the owner early on.
Okay. You had talked about that project in the warehouse. That's the Virgin Hotel.
Yeah, Virgin Hotel.
And I was going to see if you talk about if you were in charge of the rooftop bar there, and maybe some of the challenges y'all had with that job. I know there were some obstacles y'all had to go through when that was going up.
Yeah, so I've said this before. That's when I started getting gray hair, was on that job. It came out great. Everybody did a great job. But yeah, there was some struggles during that project. During the original design, unfortunately, the original owner died. Mm-hmm. So Virgin was the brand partner. It was the Virgin brand. But they had monetary backers and developers that actually funded the project, who were the real owners. And so that put the project on hold for a while. Mm-hmm. We didn't know if it was even going to happen. But not too long after, some other developers came in, wanted to keep the schedule and budget what it was, but wanted to add some hotel rooms. Mm-hmm. We didn't even know if we could do that because of how we had maxed out the site already. We couldn't build out any further. We couldn't build further up. But we worked out adding a few more hotel rooms in because they needed to get a certain key count, and we made it happen. Moving forward on the job, COVID hit. So COVID was during construction.
Yep.
We fortunately never had to stop, but completely changed how we handled every aspect of the job, dealing.
How so? What were some things that came into play with that?
We used to have, we were renting out a space close to the job site as our trailer, because there was no space for a job site trailer, so we rented a building down the street, and we used to huddle everybody in there. Well, obviously that all went digital, which worked out. You can make it happen, but when you're dealing with contractors who are just walking right out of the field dirty, who need answers right away. Yeah. It's not as easy as, just walking into the job site trailer versus saying, hey, we need to set up a Zoom meeting.
It slowed everything down a little bit.
It slowed some things down. We had to make sure a sequencing of work was happening properly to still keep trades distanced and things like that. So there was just a level of complexities that was just a struggle at the time. But we worked through it. Everybody was very disciplined in how they had to handle things. Supply chain, that was tough. We were doing just-in-time delivery on those sites because there was no laydown yard. So like the panels, a truck would show up with panels, and we would just hoist them off the truck, put them right in place, and go.
Wow.
Luckily, we did have a lot of prefabrication on that job. All the plumbing walls, all the bathrooms in the hotel rooms were prefabricated.
So it was ready to go up anyway.
So it was ready. So we brought those in. Thank God we had planned on doing that anyway, because that really helped. But we had to, all of the casework in each hotel room we were getting from a company in China. I mean, it was all extremely custom, really nice. All that had to change to a company in the United States because we couldn't get it from China anymore.
Yeah, we had that with a door for the chapel. Same thing.
Borromeo? Gotcha.
Yeah.
So that was crazy because we didn't just take the shop drawings from the Chinese company and give them to the American company.
Yeah.
We had to redesign a lot of it.
Redesign.
Because they were just like, yeah, we don't do it like that. So, it got stressful.
What about the Hard Rock? Wasn't that around the same time as this?
So unfortunately, the Hard Rock collapsed during this job, and that just put a spotlight on us. The week leading up to removing our tower crane, because with the Hard Rock incident, as the tower crane went down, it was all hands on deck panic mode. I just remember the superintendent and the senior project manager. I've never seen people so stressed.
Yeah.
Because there was news crews out there, and like people were calling and asking questions, and
Looking for a reason.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
I just didn't answer my phone because I was like, I don't want to be the one to have to answer any questions. But everything worked out fine. The tower crane came down great. I mean, it made sure we had every box checked to make sure everything would go smoothly. But that was stressful because everybody's watching.
It was a big deal.
Yeah, and towards the end of the job, we had 2 named storms that shut down work for a while and flooded the site. Our site flooded a few times. It was bad, but we were able to pump out all the water, keep going. I mean, that team on that job was great. I was on the design side, but I stayed very involved throughout construction. But the field guys did a great job. I mean, you couldn't have a more complicated job in a tight space, have that many things happen to it all at once.
And they stayed the course.
Yep.
What about talking about some of the most common types of projects that Lachine designs, and how do y'all like to pursue new work? If you could explain that process.
So we do all commercial, but we're very involved in schools. I'd say 75% of our work is probably educational, and that's from preschools and Head Start schools all the way up to university level. Right now, we currently have a lot of elementary schools. We're doing a large project on the West Bank for Jefferson Parish. It's like 125,000 square feet, pre-K through 8. So that's going to be a nice addition for the West Bank. It's on the Palco Boulevard, and they're going to get a really nice school, which they needed desperately because a lot of their schools are just old and it's hard to maintain them. So we do a lot of that, but we do other commercial. We do industrial, and everything around that. That type of sector. A lot of our work we get through RFQs and RFPs, so it's requests for proposal, requests for qualifications, and an owner or a client or a school board say will post something online to a different website like Central Auction House or different bidding websites. We'll see the proposal, we'll put together a package and compete against 20 to 50 other architects for a job. So
in the package is a list
tough.
of your qualifications
Yes,
that
and-
y'all have to write specific to that job, yes?
Yes, so they'll usually give a scoring criteria. It says, give us your team, give us relevant projects, give us your engineering consultants, tell us about the history of your firm, why you. And so it usually doesn't have anything to do with price when it's coming out like that. It's usually all about qualifications. Our pricing structure is typically on the state fee curve, but it can vary depending on the project. We do get calls from past clients a lot. That's a lot of our work too, is past clients calling us back up for the next job. And then we get random calls to, we're not a super connected firm in the know on everything, but, our name gets out there and we get a lot of referrals too. I'd say a lot of the work, though, a lot of our work currently is publicly funded work, so we go through the RFQ process.
Yeah. Do you have any particular client or type of client owner that you really enjoy working with, and what is it about them that really sets them above?
I think the type of client we like to work with is, and they don't even need to have knowledge of the industry or the project. It's a client that wants to listen, work with you, that may know what they want or think they know what they want, but is willing to admit that the architect and the contractor are the experts.
Yeah.
And so we can help you with that vision and help you with the project.
Lets you do what you were hired to do.
Right,
And what you were
exactly.
trained
That's
to
a perfect
do.
way to put
Yeah.
it. Yes. A perfect client example would be St. Bernard Parish Schools. Their school board, and they're a joy to work with. It really all started. We have a long history with them, specifically after Hurricane Katrina. Katrina was in 2005, but the projects in the whole city kept going on for 5 or more years after that, because there was so much work that had to be done. And Doris Voce, the superintendent for St. Bernard Schools, she did such a great job, like really focusing on, like, we need to push as hard as we've ever pushed to get the kids back in school. And that, drive that she had and that demeanor really spread throughout the whole area down in St. Bernard. And everybody took that mentality and just ran with it. And we've had great projects with them. We still have projects with them. And they just understand, like, the team and the coordination aspect of it. They don't come in with preconceived notions that this is what we want and just design it. They want to hear what we have to say. And it just makes for a good environment.
Yeah.
That's the type of client you really want. Egos are left at the door. Everybody's understanding, everybody's on the team.
Yeah. They want your expertise and your input.
Yes.
And they
Yeah.
understand the time, like
Yes.
the importance it is of making decisions in a timely manner.
Yes. They're proactive in getting you information. They understand that, I know it's cliche, but Rome wasn't built in a day. So they don't come and say, like, we need a new school, but we need it next week.
Right.
They know that you're going to need to take time. You're going to have to bring in the right engineer. You're going to have to understand the project. And that's a type of client that they know what they don't know. And that's why they call you.
Yeah.
So
What about the best kind of relationships to have with the GC? What comes to mind when you think about that versus an owner?
As an art, I see this differently, I guess, because most of my career, I think I've spent more years in construction than I have on the architecture side.
That's
So
true.
I kind of have a different perspective than most architects, but it's easy to butt heads. And I'll say this because I was a contractor, but contractors like playing Captain Hindsight. If they see the smallest little issue in a drawing, they're gonna call you out hard. And I've
like that
done
term.
that before too. But architects can do the same thing. If a job's not the best job, I love doing punch lists because I can say, "Oh, you did that wrong, fix it."
Right.
So, but you shouldn't have that mentality because you're all a team, and if one person is struggling, the whole project's going to struggle. You want to try to go in without having a fight, which doesn't always happen. But you want a contractor and you want an architect, and I'm friends with a lot of architects. A lot of architects can have really big egos and talk down to people. You got to stay away from that. When I go out in the field, I probably know the least about construction. The guys that are, hanging drywall and painting and doing whatever, they know their skills, and they know more than I do about it. So you got to take that mentality. When you're in a room, and with some of these design build jobs I've done, we have the structural engineer and the steel erector at the table, and couldn't be opposite types of people. I mean, this one steel erector that I'm thinking of is just an old school cowboy. He's rugged. He'll like just fly the steel up. He'll jump on the beams.
Oh gosh.
And the engineers are perfectly combed hair. Don't like going out in the
A mild
field.
stroke when he does it.
Yeah, right. Oh, yeah, absolutely. But I've seen magic happen with that. I did a job in the French Quarter. The old wax museum, we converted into condos. And one of the requirements through the View Carre Commission was that the exterior skin of the building had to remain intact. The building was falling down. I mean, the structure was jeopardized. It was a mess. So we took out all the structure within the guts of the building, and we kept that skin. And the engineer was working on it, but working on designing it, but seeing the steel erector come in early and kind of say like, look, this is going to be a lot easier because of the situation we got inside there, because the soils were obviously terrible too. Seeing them work together on crazy projects like that was eye-opening. And so you need that type of, they ended up, they like each other now. There was a couple of times when they were like, you can butt heads, but.
So it all boils down to communication, same
Yeah.
thing.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Communication is key, in early communication.
Can you talk about how Lachine likes to produce their opinions of cost before the job goes out? And
So,
how it might vary depending on the situation.
yeah, I mean, that was perfectly stated. It varies depending on the client. One thing I don't like to just directly go to is RS means. Not knocking it. Some clients tell us we need the RS means, numbers, because that's what we're setting our budget to. But one thing RS means doesn't do is understand the specifics of the project. So I like to, I have a lot of connections in the construction industry. I like going right to the source and talking to different subcontractors or trade partners that I know.
You call subs, yeah.
Yeah, and just call the subs and find out. We also, we've got a lot of jobs going on, so we've got recent numbers from the schedule values that we get from the contractors that we can reference to. So we've got a pretty good handle on that. But a perfect example is we were doing some reskinning work at a school right by the lake, right near UNO's campus. And so I was looking at some numbers in RS means for the exterior skin, and I was like, man, this just doesn't seem right. And I was looking at the scaffolding, I was looking at the cladding, the painting, everything, and I was like, this just seems low. And so I called up one of my buddies that I used to work with, who has knowledge of that, and he goes, oh, what you're not thinking of, and he gave me a few examples of, we were close to the lake, so different wind protections and things, and we were on a campus, so screening off the scaffolding, and that helps, and it added probably another $6 a square foot to that price. And so it's great to call up, resources to learn about what else.
And to think of things in context. I mean, RS means will tell you, it'll be X to hang that drywall, but what is it above the ceiling through all the mechanical to get it up to deck,
Yeah, if you're on the 31st floor versus the first floor.
Right.
But,
So that makes a lot of
that's important.
sense.
Don't be afraid to make phone calls to people. I've done that my whole career, and I still do. I was on the phone with a Sika caulking rep yesterday, just to figure out some answers on a submittal.
Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about the size of Lachine as a company, the structure of it, and maybe the intern process there?
Yeah. So right now we have 9 people. We could definitely always use more. It's hard to hire right now. I feel like most graduates are going to Texas. But if anybody needs a job, put in a shameless plug. And our projects range from really like $250,000 in construction value, which is by far the smallest jobs, all the way up to about 48 million is our largest. Sweet spot, the job that we like is probably like $10 to $20 million in construction value, but it depends on the job and the client and the scope of work, because right now we've got some projects that are probably about 1 to 3 million in construction. They're industrial.
Yeah.
It's design build for the same contractor, and those work out really well. We've got a good relationship with them. We know what they want.
Yeah.
And, so those are good jobs too.
Yeah.
Our interns.
Go ahead.
Our internship program, we've honestly been having the same person come and intern for us for the past 4 years. She started interning with us when she went to college, and this is going to be her last year in architecture school. She really enjoys it. We've had some other people come in and shadow.
This was the first one that really worked out all the way like that, you think?
Yeah, she just wants to keep coming back.
Has it given y'all a better idea of how to make that process go the best way, you think?
I think so. I don't think, I don't think we're ever going to be an expert on it because things are always changing.
That makes sense, yeah.
But we get feedback from her that's very useful because she'll go back to school and, just be in the school environment. And, she works part-time from school sometimes, but then she comes back in the summer and she's working for us. And it's the summer after her 4th year, and she just put together a set of drawings that we obviously were overseeing and heavily involved in. Like, she drew it all.
Yeah.
When I was the summer after my 4th year in college, I wasn't.
You weren't there,
doing
yeah.
it yet. I was picking up red lines on drawings, but I wasn't really we're sitting down with her, and she said the other day, she's like, I'm gonna go back to school, and she's like, I'm just gonna be like at a different level than everybody else. That's
because of the experience
drawing.
at Charles Company.
Right. So I think it's really important to help grow the next generation of architects. I definitely saw a lull for a while, like during and right after COVID. Like the students that were 3rd, 4th, 5th years during COVID came out of school and they had been doing architecture school from home.
Oh.
And that did not help anybody. And so like we're really focused now on like the younger generation, the interns, the architectural designers that don't have a license yet, really trying to spend time with them and teach them the process.
So do you handle like the design and then it goes down into a chain of like, the guys that are doing the software, and how does it work like that?
I do very little design anymore.
I was just wondering how it works.
David, the other partner, he is focused a lot more on the design with the staff. I handle more of the business side of things, but David and I are involved in every job. So every project that we have in our office, we maintain communication with the owner throughout the whole project. And I think that's important because, one, you don't want to feel like you're just getting passed off as a client, to somebody else, which isn't always a bad thing because sometimes I might know the least about something in the drawings where the rest of the staff knows way more. But you want to feel like, as a client, somebody's overseeing it.
Yeah.
They can always call me. And I think that helps with repeat business too because they know, call me on my cell phone, talk to me about anything in the future. And we like to have an oversight of that. And we're still at a size to where I think we can handle that.
Do y'all still actually go out in the field and ensure that it's being built as designed, or is that kind of...
Absolutely.
Y'all do that? Okay.
Yeah. Every OAC that's on site for a job, one of us is at. We're always out there. I was working on a punch list just last week or so.
Yeah.
So we maintain involvement. And we like to. I don't want to get this big, but if we ever had 100 architects, I don't know that we could do that.
Right.
But I like it because I spend enough time in the office just dealing with contracts and billings and the business side of it, insurance, to where I like going out in the field. That's why I became an architect. It's things getting built. So that makes it fun.
Interesting. Some goals that y'all have going forward the next several years as a company, whether it's stuff you talk about or maybe things you just thought about on your own.
So some recent goals that we have had was to complete the buyout and make sure the company continues to roll forward because Mike ran the company since the mid 80s and he did a great job of it. And so that's a lot of pressure taking over something like that. And, I think we're doing a great job of that. We've been wanting to establish a North Shore office, and
that's cool.
We've done that. So we have an office in Covington now, because we've had some a good bit of North Shore work, especially like with St. Tammany Parish schools, and we'd like to continue to grow that because we think there's a lot of growth up there. So we've done that. And future goals, we want to try to break into industrial more. We like that sector, and we think there's a lot of potential in Louisiana, and continue to move into Mississippi a little bit. We've got 3 jobs there right now. 2 are big healthcare jobs in Jackson, and 1 is a mixed-use development in Pass Christian, which has been a lot of fun to see that. It's some apartments right on the beach.
Y'all are licensed there? Any other states?
We're licensed there, Texas, Alabama,
Oh.
maybe still Florida. We did have a license in Florida. I don't
You
know
have to renew that yearly?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I actually was going to ask you about that earlier, about when you first got licensed and if that was intimidating or more challenging than you at first thought it might be. Just for any architect that might be thinking about that hasn't got it yet, you know?
So when I was younger, I actually didn't even plan on getting my license when I went into the construction side.
You were so involved with
I
the
was so
CM
involved in the
process.
construction side. I was just like, I don't know if I'm going to get my license because
Right.
I wasn't doing architecture. But one of my bosses at Skanska was like, man, he goes, you put in a lot of work to go through architecture school
Right.
because it is a lot of work. It's grueling 5 years.
Right.
He's like, you really should do that. And there was some licensed architects at Skanska, and then obviously there was licensed architects at Broadmoor, to where I could work under them, get my hours, and I started studying for my exams, and I took them all. And now we've got 2 designers in our office that are studying for their licensing exam, and it's all different tests. They've revamped the system. They've changed it to where when they tell me what test they're taking, I'm like, well, I don't even remember taking my test because I think I tried to block it out because it is intimidating when you first start to take those exams.
So it was a scary thing at the time.
Absolutely. I took 7 exams
Mm-hmm.
on different parts of the industry, and it's a lot of information. It's a lot of information that you've never seen before.
Right.
And sometimes it honestly doesn't even coincide with what you're doing.
Really?
And so it can be confusing, and it's scary. It was a rough process, but look, you focus on one at a time.
Yeah.
You study, you get it done, and eventually it's over with, and it's worth it. So, but yeah, we help the architectural designers in our office when they have a test coming up. We know they've got one, and we'll set aside time to work with them.
Are there practice programs or
There's
classes, things like that they can take?
There's classes, there's online classes, there's softwares, and we support them in that. We purchase the softwares for them so that they can use.
Mm-hmm.
There's like study manuals and websites that have all the information and practice exams, and so we support them with that. We sit down with them and spend time with them.
Would y'all prefer to have more licensed than non-licensed people on staff, or does it not really matter based on what you've got going on?
It there's not one better way to do it. You could have one licensed architect and a lot of unlicensed designers,
Right.
and it can work out fine. Or you could have a firm with 10 licensed architects and no unlicensed people. That's how we used to be very top heavy until we started having some of our senior architects retire, and they all had a license. They didn't use them. We have one person that stamps everything.
Stamps, yeah.
But you want, you like to see the younger generation get their license too, so
Mm-hmm.
the state can maintain their architects. And I think it's important to get it now. As much as I didn't think I was going to, I'm glad I have it now, obviously.
Right.
So yeah, I think it's a good thing for sure.
If there was somebody just first year architecture student at any of the colleges, what would be your advice to them?
It's never too early to reach out to architecture firms, and maybe it's not an internship your first year, maybe it is.
Mm-hmm.
But just ask them if you can go shadow. I have Tulane students call me up a lot and ask if they can just come shadow us for a day. We did that this year with a student from Chicago. She
wow.
came down back. She was from here originally. Came back down and shadowed us for a few days. So we took her around to job sites.
And she just cold called you?
Yeah, it was another architect that I knew in the city who was like, "Would you mind doing this?"
That's cool.
And yeah, I was like, "Sure, why not?" And so she just followed us around.
Yeah.
She asked a lot of good questions. I think it's eye-opening, the difference from architecture school to an architecture firm, and it's never too early to start. You'll pick up things and take stuff back to school that you wouldn't know otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's the biggest advice I could give to a young student. And ask questions. There's no dumb questions. When you're that, if I could go back and think about all the questions I asked, that probably were silly, but at the time you just don't know.
You don't know. Yeah.
So don't be afraid to ask questions. If there's something that you are looking at that you legitimately don't know, there's a reason you don't know it. You haven't been taught it yet.
Right.
Mhm.
So ask those questions. We take for granted everything in this industry, just like the acronyms and everything. You know,
It's a lot of information to take.
A lot of
in.
information.
Yeah.
So ask questions. Don't be afraid to. Yep, that's like
Oh,
the,
yeah.
the main bar on the ground floor.
I've been in there.
And so like there's a secret door right there, like underneath the stairs. There's like a, not secret, but a door that closes and like the wall slides open and there's like a little private room. You see it's open right now. A little private room
private
underneath there. It's
room.
really neat.
That's cool.
Anthony
Never been in there?
was-
Not
Never
private.
been invited to the
No,
private room?
I'm-
Is it like the champagne room?
Could be kinda.
Nobody knows.
Yeah.
You were on the design team for this? Or how does
So
that-
Mathis Briere was the designer, the architect of record. They worked under us, and I was the design build director. And so I was based like, I wrote the contracts to them, the engineers, who the engineers were design build as well, and oversaw everything. So I ran it, just making sure, you know, the client was happy, the budget was met, the deliverables were on time. A job that intricate, getting like those different sets of drawings out, it's a lot of work just coordinating, not just the time drawing, but like just making sure like freaking procurement time. Like there's a procurement agent. Every single fabric in that hotel had a full specification. You know, 'cause it's all got to be fire rated. It's got to have like that double rub count. You know, they put them in the machines and rub it so hard so that it doesn't fray. And so like just the FF&E on that job was
Moving, yeah, getting
It's like-
everything out of the way.
They also said, this is almost, this is like a flyover, but it shows the rooftop.
It's good footage.
we reached out to a local guy to do some of this stuff, and we ended up not doing it. The proposal was like $30,000.
For the video type stuff?
Yeah.
Well, just get it from
Jesus.
this lady.
Well, that's what we were like. Oh my god. Well, I was like, I don't know. That's not in my design budget. You know.
Right.
Oh.
Didn't squeeze that in
and then
there.
Virgin came like a week later, and they were like, "All right, let's start getting our marketing people ready and stuff." I'm like, "All right, let's just take their stuff." And
Yeah.
But we're just talking about maybe working with them a little bit. I just want to plug them a little bit because they sent me the footage, so just kind of
yeah,
talk good about Virgin for a little while.
we can start. Or-
Yeah.
So working with Virgin Brands was really interesting. It was unique in that we almost had two owners. We had the financial owner, which was some developers out of Chevy Chase, Maryland. But then there was also Virgin, and one person's focused on budget, and the other person is focused on quality and making sure you maintain the Virgin brand standards. And when I say Virgin brand standard, there's a packet that's thousands of pages that specify not exactly what you need to design, because every hotel at Virgin is different. They wanted to have some local flair, but like the quality and certain requirements. And so that was a big part of it. And they were a lot of fun to work with. Their group was out of Miami, so they'd fly in a lot of the time, and they really had a good vision of what they wanted. But it was definitely tricky because that other client would fly in too, and they're very business. They want
Right.
to make money. So trying to meld the two personalities and make sure that they get the project done and both people are happy. So it was very challenging, but we had the right team in place to where everything ended well, and it came in on time, on budget, and I think you can look and see and go there. It's a very nice, very nice space.
Yeah.
We had a great design team working with Mathis Briere and then the interior designers, LKI, and all the engineers. We had a good team that worked really well. There were some times where the interior designers were looking at the specific faucets that they could use, and it had to meet the Virgin standards. We had to get it on time because remember COVID.
COVID.
And then it also had to meet the mechanical and plumbing contractor's budget. And we also worked with Pontchartrain Mechanical, Wendell Humphreys. He was a huge help because he would sit down, really just grind out the fixtures that fit all of those requirements and still got the approval of the interior designers. So when you have a team like that is, looking at fixtures from 4 or 5 different angles. It's just, it's how things come together.
Yeah.
And it seems so easy. It's like, well, go pick out a fixture. Is that too
It's not.
expensive? Pick out a cheaper fixture. But then the cheaper fixture isn't gonna hold up as well for the client. The client's got certain standards that every other hotel in the country meets those standards, so this one's going to. So it gets more complicated than you would think. That's why you got to get the right people. It's not just about who's the cheapest contractor. It's about who works best together. We interviewed lots of different engineer and contractor combos because, again, the electrical engineer and the electrical contractor were contractually tied to each other. They were one team.
Right.
And the same went for the other priority subs. So it's important to get that worked out. And Virgin was a great client to work with. They were real accommodating, especially with the whole COVID situation during construction.
Mhm.
It came out really nice.
Yeah.
All right, that's a wrap. Good.